Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rob Waters, and welcome to the Viessmann Academy. On behalf of everyone at Viessmann, we thank you for joining us today and hope you enjoy our webinar. We've got a great topic for you today on the VITOSOL Domestic Water Solar Pack. Just a couple of things to note as we go along here. There is an opportunity for you to ask questions. So there's a question box on your sidebar there, so feel free to ask a question if you'd like. So enjoy the webinar, and we'll get right to it. Today's topic is on Viessmann solar heating systems, and we're going to focus on primarily the domestic water solar pack, but we're also going to look at some of the other products that we sell and give you a quick overview and look at those first. So I'm going to start out with that, and then we'll move on and finish up with the solar pack, which is the new product we're introducing. If you look at what Viessmann does, we are in the solar thermal business, liquid water heating. We make glazed collectors, both flat plate and vacuum tube collectors. And you can see on the bottom, there's really four main applications that can be used for glazed solar water heating. And those would include pool heating, domestic water heating, space heating supplement, and space cooling. Now, the applications that really are the ones that make the most sense are the first two: pool heating, domestic water heating. Those are really your best and most cost-effective solar water heating applications. We have done many space heating supplement systems and many space cooling systems, but in most areas of North America, it's pretty hard to justify those other two, and there's still in a lot of ways some issues with those. So most of the business we do is pool heating and water heating. Those are the ones that typically give you the most bang for your buck. And certainly this new solar pack falls into that second category there of domestic water heating. The other thing to note with all the VITOSOL solar thermal systems that Viessmann sells, they're all closed loop heating systems. And that means we have a glycol water heat transfer fluid that's circulated through collectors with a pumping station. We have a heat exchanger in the storage tank, or external in some cases, to transfer the heat. So a lot of the fundamentals are the same as hydronic heating systems. So if most of you are familiar with hydronic heating systems, you'll find that a lot of the same design criteria and basic fundamental information is the same. So pipe sizing, expansion tanks, pressure release valves, all those are the same. The thing that's dramatically different with a solar closed loop design versus a boiler closed loop design is with a boiler, you have a mechanical and electronic control that shuts the boiler off when you've got enough heat. With a solar closed loop system, you can't do that. You cannot turn the sun off. So you always have the potential to get very, very hot temperatures, and that means the components we use are sometimes different. So plastic piping, things like that, we have to be very, very careful with. So Viessmann solar systems, we have a whole range of products to satisfy many different types of solar heating systems. We have 4 different types of collectors that we offer, both flat plate and vacuum tubes. And we make pumping stations, solar controls, and of course our Vitocell solar domestic water storage tanks, both single coil and double coil. And then a wide range of accessories that go along with that solar system. So we can really make a complete package system for you that suits a wide variety of both residential and commercial applications for those multiple applications: domestic water, pool heating, and space heating supplement. Certainly one of the strengths of Viessmann is hydronic heating. We know hydronic heating. We've been doing it for many, many, many years. We really have some great expertise in how to combine solar with boilers or with biomass systems and combine them together. So we certainly can really help you out there. Just a quick look at our flat plate collectors. We make a couple of different versions, the 100F and the 200F series. They're both available in vertical and horizontal versions, and the differences come down to a few of the key points here. Like if you look at the depth, the VITOSOL 200 is deeper. It's got a painted frame. It's got a continuous glass trim, it's got a different absorber coating, and it's got more insulation, and it's a little bit heavier. So that 200F is really our premium collector from aesthetic point of view and from performance point of view, but it is more expensive. So the advantage of the 100F is it's a less expensive collector option. And in a lot of ways, that 100F is designed for southern climates, because when you don't need as much insulation and you've got lots of solar radiation available, you maybe don't need that performance. So it really was developed originally by Viessmann as a lower cost option for southern climates. But we've used it successfully all over the continent. That 100 and 200F series of collectors have a lot of great features. The wraparound frame design is something that's unique to us. There is no screws or rivets visible anywhere on our collectors because it's all a molded wraparound frame, and it really makes aesthetically the collector look very nice on the roof. We can do large collector arrays, up to 12 collectors opposite corners, and the pressure drop through our bank of collectors is very low. So even when you have 10 or 12 collectors banked together like we showed here, you can have less than 6 feet of head loss through that whole array, because basically you have a serpentine absorber piping in there with an internal header. So it really allows us to do some very large systems. Largest collector array system I've been involved in is 200 flat plate collectors, and it worked very, very successfully. Again, horizontal and vertical versions available. And the other thing that's unique from the Viessmann perspective is our leak-free quick connect fittings. We've had fantastic success with these. Makes for quick, fast, easy connections, and they just flat out don't leak. We've had great success with those. So that double O-ring design provides a permanent leak-free connection, and it's very simple. And the other great thing about it is you can take it apart if you need to, so it's very easy to work with. Then we look at our vacuum tube collectors. We have two different types of vacuum tubes, the SPE and the SP2A. Differences being tube diameter, header design, the amount you can rotate these, and the header design and the number of tubes. So you can see there are very different models. They both are a heat pipe design, and they both use tubes manufactured by Viessmann. When Viessmann first entered the market in solar business, we used another type of tube from a different vendor, a sub-supplier, and we had a lot of problems with those. But since we've introduced this series of these two series of collectors about 2 or 3 years ago, basically our vacuum seal problems have gone away. Reliability issues are not there anymore, are fantastic with these ones, and so we've had great success with these. So this is really a premium vacuum tube collector that Viessmann really can stand behind. The neat thing about vacuum tube collectors is that you can have a lot of versatility in how you mount them. Because we can rotate the tubes, we can go on a slope roof and increase the angle of inclination and get better performance in the winter months. We can go on a flat roof or on a facade on the side of a wall and get great performance, and that reduces racking costs, snow load issues, wind load issues, and especially that sidewall installation when you got high snow loads. It's a fantastic way of mounting collectors. And you also pick up some reflection off the snow as well on when you bounce off the ground and such. So a lot of great opportunities with that tube design. We often get asked, which collector's better? And I always get asked at trade shows and such, which collector's really better? You guys make both types. And I always say, one collector is not better than the other. We make both types for a reason. There's cost differences, there's performance differences, there's application differences. We really look at the collector and say, which is the best collector for this application, and decide which one makes the most sense. When you look at application, a lot of times if you're just doing domestic water or pool heating, the flat plate makes a lot of sense, and it's really the best bang for the buck. When you get into higher temperature applications, process heating, solar cooling, and maybe if you're trying to create more energy in the winter months, then the vacuum tube may be the better option. There's other variables. There's mounting locations, space availability, aesthetics. Some people think the vacuum tube looks better. Some people say the flat plate looks better. Wind loading, snow loads, all those things come into play, and it means that there's not any one collector that suits all applications. And we really feel that it's best to look at the collector or look at the application and see which one really fits the demand. Now again, the flat plates, it's pretty tough to beat the bang for the buck. We sell probably about 80% or more of our collector sales are flat plates because it's hard to beat the bang for the buck, and in most cases we're doing those, domestic water heating applications. Along with the collectors, of course, there's a whole raft of system components, high temperature, non-toxic solar fluid. We sell a product called Typhocore, which has great properties for high temperature evaporatability and also for low temperature requirement for freeze protection. Our expansion tank, so we make a special solar expansion tank which has high temperature capability, and it's also got a higher precharge, so it comes with a 45 psi precharge, and it makes it better for commissioning the system. And of course we make a pumping station with the pump and the flow meter and all the hydraulic components all built into one, 2 sizes of those available, so we can put together many different types of system packages. And then of course you combine that with storage tanks. We make a whole range of storage tanks from 40 to 120 gallons in both dual coil and single coil versions, and stainless steel and enamel steel. So there's a lot of tank options, and again we can mix and match. And again, if you want the premium solar tank in the industry, you're looking at the 300 series stainless steel tank. That thing's absolutely bulletproof. It's got a great track record. You do pay more for it, but if you want to give your customer the best, that's the way to go. And then we have a bunch of different differential controllers available. And again, we can meet the application depending on how many outputs you need and things like that, different configurations with those SCU solar controls. And then to round it all off, we have some commissioning tools like the pumping station, which is flushes and fills. It's really the essential tool, I can tell you, and if anyone's in the solar industry, you want to get one of these because it makes your life so much easier and faster when it comes to starting up a solar system. You can get it in on that job much faster. So that's sort of a quick overview of all the different parts and pieces that make up our solar systems, and we make many customized packages available. I just want to quickly go over some of the installation methods, and again, that's another thing we have is for all of these different collectors, and we have lots of different mounting options. Slope proof is probably the most common with either flat plate or vacuum tubes, and that's what we're offering with our solar pack system. Flat roof, either horizontal, that's one of the advantages of a horizontal flat plate. It's got a lower profile. We can also go vertical flat plate, and then vacuum tubes either on an angled rack or laying flat. So lots of options there. We're getting more and more interest in the laid flat mounting of the vacuum tubes because it reduces wind loads. It's aesthetically more pleasing. You can't see the product from the street, and also the racking cost is reduced dramatically. Wall mounting, and anywhere you have snow loads, this is really becoming the go-to choice because you can mount the collectors on the wall, angle the absorbers. You don't have to deal with snow loads. You don't have to the other thing is you don't have to deal with roof penetrations. So we're seeing more and more customers look at that as an option, and with SP2A collectors, it's a great option. We also make a balcony, what we call a balcony module, which is a smaller version of that SP2A tube, so it's also available. And of course we can mount our flat plates on a side of a wall as well with an angle frame rack, adjustable up to 45 degrees. So lots and lots of different ways we can customize the system to meet your demands. So let's get into really what this today's seminar is all about, is the domestic water solar pack. And this is a packaged solar domestic water heating system that is brand new for us here at Viessmann. It was introduced late last year, and in North America, and it was introduced in Europe about a year ago. It's a closed loop water heating system. The big thing that makes it different is it's got a lot of pre-assembled components, and I'll show you that as we go through this, that really makes it simple and easy to install. It's designed for residential applications, and it can be used for, of course, small commercial as well, but it is limited to this combination of just 2 collectors and a small tank. There is 2 versions available on the tanks, one a dual coil and one a single coil with electric element. So what a package includes typically, it's 2 flat plate collectors. These are SVK series collectors. It's different than the other ones I was showing you earlier. They're a little bit different dimensions, but same fundamental design. That's packaged together with either a CVBA or a CVSA tank with, again, that single or double coil. You get the factory integrated pumping station and control, you get mounting hardware, and you get a bunch of other components like expansion tanks and fittings and things like that. So it's a complete package system that pretty much gives you everything you need, with the exception of piping. That's the only thing it doesn't include, is the piping from the roof to the mechanical room, and we'll show you how you can do that later on. So let's look at some of the features of this system. It starts out with high performance collectors and storage tanks. We really at Viessmann have been in the solar business for over 30 years, and we've really perfected producing high performance collectors and high performance internal coil storage tanks, low heat loss, great heat transfer capabilities, etc. The whole package is design match, so it's made to work as a package. You don't have to think about what size of expansion tank you need, or do I have enough pump, or is it the right control, or is it the right size tank. It's all designed to work together. The pumping station is pre-assembled at the factory and pre-mounted on the tank, so it saves a ton of time on the job site and eliminates a lot of piping and labor. The expansion tank mounts directly on the storage tank, and I'll show you that how that works in a few minutes. The collector has greatly reduced number of fittings because we have two special T-fittings that slip between those two collectors, and no tools required to connect those together, and it's just a fast, simple, easy way of putting the collectors together. If you use stainless steel piping systems, you can go completely solderless in the entire solar loop, which is again a tremendous time saver and labor saving to make for real fast, simple, easy installations. And I'll describe that in a little more detail as we go on here. One of the greatest features of this package is its low cost, because we've eliminated a lot of fittings. Design match the components, optimize the installation process, and pre-assembled a lot of components. This package system is very, very reasonably priced, and it means that you can really offer your customer solar for a lot less money. We talk about the lower capital cost of that package system, but a big part of the appeal of this system is not only that it's lower cost components, but it's also going to be a lot lower cost to install, because we've taken a lot of the labor that you would normally have to do on site, and we've done it for you, or created special fittings to speed up the installation. And it starts with smaller, lighter panels, which are really easy to handle and install. They're not big behemoth panels like some of these manufacturers make 4x10 collectors, and I'm thinking, oh my God, who the hell wants to haul a 4x10 collector up on a roof? These things are basically 3.5x7 kind of size frame, easy and lightweight to work with, so you're not struggling with great big monsters. A lot of the components are pre-assembled, so you look at that pumping station, and we'll go into the detail of that in a few minutes. It's compact, very aesthetically pleasing. Pre-assembled. You don't have to do any work to make that finished on the job site. A lot of the wiring is done for you as well. So we have pre-wired control system with just a receptacle plug connection, and then the pump, and most of the sensors are already pre-wired for you. Like the tank sensor, the two tank sensors are already pre-wired. The only thing you have to connect up on site is the collector temperature sensor has to be connected on site. And of course, we use quick connect fittings on the collector, and you can see the bottom there. We'll describe it in a little more detail later on, but it's a specialized T fitting that just is a push connect O-ring seal. Again, simple, easy, fast, reliable fitting system. So that really, all those things combined just mean that your labor and installation time on site is going to be greatly reduced, and the potential for making errors is reduced as well, because we're not as worried about someone putting the pump on the wrong line, or the things not being put where they're supposed to be. The other thing that we've tried to do with this domestic water solar pack is make it simple and easy to order. So it's a complete solar system with all the required components in one package. There's one part number for the system, and that gets you everything that you need, and it's packaged on one skid. So you don't have to think about, do I need this piece, do I not you would not need that piece. For the contractor, it's easy. I just need either, you got two options. You either got the internal coil or the double coil tank or the single coil tank. For the distributor, it's easy to order from Viessmann. Just one part number, one, and it's shipped on one skid. So it's shipped with the collector standing vertical. So it's a fairly small footprint. When it comes to shipping that system on a truck, whether if that's go long distances, because the collectors are a little bit shorter, it will fit in just about any transport truck for shipping. So it's made easy to and reduce shipping. It's going to reduce the shipping costs as well. So let's look at the two different tank versions. The CVBA dual coil tank is shown on the left there. The top coil is typically used for reheating by the boiler, but there's other ways we can pipe the system up as well. So we'll go through a few piping layouts later on and I'll show you, but typically that's going to be your one tank system where the tank can be heated by either solar or the boiler or both. On the right, you have the Vitocell CVSA tank, which is a single coil tank. It's identical to the CVBA, except for it doesn't have the top coil. We've also added into that tank a 4.5 kilowatt electric immersion element, and that gives you the ability to provide backup heating with electricity, or you can use this as a preheat tank and have another type of domestic water tank upstream of this, either an instantaneous or a tank type heater. So there's a basic overview of the piping schematic of a CVBA dual coil tank. In the gray here, you see this gray section. That's what's included in the solar pack. So that section there in the bottom represents everything that's the tank and the pumping station and the control all in one package. And then the solar system, the panels are up on the roof here. So this fluid is circulated through the panels and through that bottom coil in the tank. And there's a flow meter, et cetera. I'll go through all the stuff in that in a few minutes. And then the boiler system is tapped into that top coil for reheating. So this sensor located here is the one that would be tied into the boiler control and would determine when the boiler fires and activates that pump to back up. So that's typically, you're going to set a minimum temperature in the boiler control of say 120 degrees and say, if the solar's not keeping up, then the temperature in the top of the tank drops below 120 or 130 or whatever you set it to, it will kick in the boiler and the pump and reheat the tank. So you're always going to have domestic water for the customer. And of course, that boiler can also be doing space heating with radiant floor or fan coils or whatever the case may be. The other option is, if you don't have a hydronic heating system, is just to use, this is showing the CVSA tank, as a preheat to a conventional water heater. So whether that be a gas or electric water heater or maybe even a tankless water heater, the solar system is going to preheat the water and feed it into that existing tank. And if it's not hot enough coming out of the solar tank, then the existing tank will boost the temperature before it goes to the load. Now you also have showing in number F here, which is the electric element. So you do have the option to use electricity to heat that tank, and there may be situations where you can eliminate the auxiliary tank altogether and just run off this, but it depends on the cost of electricity and whether that gives you enough capability to keep up with the load, because it's only a 4.5 kilowatt element, so that may or may not be enough depending on how big the load is in the house. This is just a graphic here. We show the capability of this system in a typical family home. We use a program called TSOL, which is a simulation program which simulates the performance of a solar water heating system. And we ran the solar pack through that TSOL program. You can see the inputs here, the number of collectors, the tank size, the backup boiler, the domestic water usage rate, and it spits out the results. This is how much energy the solar system is going to produce. And in this case, it represents about 54% of the load for that building. And this was run for a weather location in Waterloo, Ontario. So the results will vary based on location, but gives you an idea of what this system is capable of doing. Solar fraction could be higher in different locations. So you take the same system out into in parts of the southern U.S., that could go up to 75-80% solar fraction, or even in Western Canada where you have some areas in Alberta and Saskatchewan with higher sunlight. Or if the usage rate is lower, then if it's only 2 people in the household, then you could again get a much higher solar fraction. So simulations result vary with a lot of these variables, but it gives you an idea of what a typical family home you're going to do with this solar pack. So let's look at the components that are in the solar pack. It starts out with collectors, 2 SVK collectors. Total gross area is about 47 square feet. It basically 7 by 7 area, or just a little less than 7 feet by 7 feet is the gross area of both those collectors together. There's quick connect fitting system that connects those 2 collectors together, and there's a stainless steel flex pipe that comes on those as well. We have a mounting rail system that we use for all our flat plate collectors for a sloped roof mounting system where it includes roof brackets which are attached to the roof joists, and then a rail system which holds the collectors in place. You get one of 2 packages, either the CVBA or CVSA tank, whichever one you order. It's got the factory mounted solar Divicon pumping station located right on the side of that tank, and with the sensors. There's an expansion tank kit, which includes a flex pipe and a bracket and the expansion tank, which all mounts to that, quick connects together onto the storage tank. And you get a jug of pre-mixed 50/50 glycol, high temperature Typhicol fluid for that solar loop. So that's the basic package. Let's take a closer look at some of the individual components, and you'll see that CVBA tank, 66-gallon storage capacity. It's an enamel-coated steel tank. Sarah Protect is the brand name that Viessmann uses. It's a double coating of enamel steel on all surfaces in that tank, coils and tank body itself. And it's proven to be very reliable for us. We've been selling that tank model in North America for about 10 years now. 66 gallons of water storage in that tank. The bottom coil connects to the solar panels through that pumping station. So the solar collectors connections are on the top side of that pumping station, and they are internally piped and internally connected to that coil. The top coil is for reheating by the boiler or for transferring of heat into another load, such as a space heating system. There's a top inspection and cleanout opening with a consumable magnesium anode in that tank. So it will need to be serviced over time as that magnesium anode gets depleted and to give that tank a long service life. There's an additional sensor well on the top of the tank if you need it for other purposes. And the whole tank is surrounded with a very highly effective foamed in place insulation, and then there's a molded a plastic and steel jacket which surrounds the whole thing. So a great package. The CVSA tank is very, very similar, a lot of the same features. The enamel coated steel tank with the volume 69 gallon. If you were here in the classroom with me, I'd say, well, why is this tank volume 69 and the other one's only 66? And of course, one of you being very sharp would have said, well, of course, it's because this one doesn't have a top coil. There's more volume for stored water. So that's why you have a little bit more volume in that top coil. The electric element is an immersion element. It's not exactly shown in this graphic because this is a European graphic. They use different elements. We use a North American supplied electric element. So it's a standard off-the-shelf screw-in element, which you'll be able to get at any supply store. And of course, it has an adjustable temperature aquastat to control the temperature. Bottom coil works the same as the other tank. Top inspection opening and anode and insulation are all the same as the previous tank. Okay, let's take a closer look at that solar Divicon pumping station. This is the sort of heart and brains of this system, and it's again factory mounted. You can see here there's a gasketed connection with a threaded nut on there, which connects that tank to the pumping station. So it is possible to remove the whole thing if you need to, but in most cases you shouldn't need to do that. The heart of the system is the Grundfos 1568 3-speed solar pump, which circulates the fluid through the piping and the collectors. There's a DeltaSol BX solar controller, which is the brains of the system, and it's going to look at the temperature sensors and decide when the pump comes on and off based on the differentials between the collector and the tank. And of course, it has safeties and things like that as well in there, high limits. There's an 87 psi pressure relief valve on the side of that exit outside of the box. There's a pressure gauge there, so you can see what the pressure in the system is. There's an isolation valve with flow check valve built right into the body of that valve, so you're not going to get reverse flow at nighttime. You always have to have a check valve in a closed loop system with a solar system. There's flush and fill ports built in. There's one located here where we're pointing. There's also another one you can't see that's behind the pressure gauge there. So you can hook your hoses up to that for flushing and filling the system. There's a flow meter with a little glass window in there so you can see the little spring assembly going up and down, or a little float assembly to read what your flow rate is and actually visibly see that there's flow. There's a thermosiphon U pipe in the return line with a built-in air vent at the top, so you can burp the air out of the system right there. So the return water comes back and does this little U-bend before it goes into the coil. So that gives us a chance to trap and collect any air in the system, and also to reduce reverse flow at nighttime. And of course, the whole thing is surrounded by a foam insulation shell to keep it both aesthetically and keep the heat loss down. So the VITOSOL BX control is a very powerful controller, but it's also easy to use. It's got a touchscreen, or not touchscreen, it's got a digital display there, and you can, with push buttons to programming. Unfortunately, we don't have time to get into programming right now, but it's capable of doing all kinds of different functions. It's actually probably way more powerful than we need for this basic system, but it gives us a lot of functionality. It is factory wired, as I mentioned before. It's got capability to do other additional loads and functions because it's got additional relay outputs and sensor inputs. So you could potentially do a lot of things with this. It's got a pulse width modulation output on the pump circuit, so it will vary the speed of the solar pump based on the differential through the collectors. So if you got a really strong sunny day, your system's going to start up, go to 100% pump firing, and then it'll modulate up and down as the solar radiation level changes over the day. So it will vary between 30 and 100% flow rate. So that saves electricity and gives you more precise loading of your solar tank. And then there's a SD card slot in the side of that control, so you can do data logging for troubleshooting and analysis of what's going on in that system. There is a V-bus connection on this control, which is basically your connection to get into things like internet connectability and remote monitoring and things like that. So lots of power and lots of functionality in that solar control that comes with the system. I mentioned earlier the expansion tank kit, and that really is a great option because you don't have to think about where do I mount the expansion tank, how do I pipe it up and things like that. So it's got everything built in. So you got the 18 liter or 4.5 gallon expansion tank, and then the bracket screws right onto the side of the tank. There's little stubs welded right on the tank, so you don't have to worry about where to mount it. There's a flexible connector pipe with compression fittings, which connects everything together. So that's the side of the pumping station there, and there's a compression fitting here and a compression fitting here. The pipe comes pre-bent and connects all together. And let me go back to that. And this right here, this is a service valve with a built-in check valve and a bleed port. So if you need to check the pressure in that expansion tank, you can actually disconnect the expansion tank without draining the system. So 1, 2, 3 years down the road, if you want to check the pressure in the expansion tank, you just pop this connection here. You're going to lose a very minimal amount of fluid as just what's in that little connector there, and then you can bleed the pressure off and check the expansion tank. So a great service feature down the road that you'll really appreciate. So the collectors are the driver of the system. They're high performance collectors with a selectively surface coated a one-piece aluminum absorber, meander shaped copper piping, and a one-piece wraparound frame like I showed you on the other flat plates. It is a little different in that they're a little different dimension than our other collectors. They're a smaller dimension lengthwise. They're only 81 inches, and there's no connectors on the side of the collector, so there's no plugs required anymore. The only connections we make are in the middle of those two collectors, and I'll show you that a little bit further detail later on. So there's a look at the inside of that collector. It's a serpentine collector. There's no internal header pipes, and the connections are only going to be made on one side of the collector. So this is very different from our other collectors that I showed you that we could do 12 collectors in an array. Well, you can't do this with this collector. This collector is only designed to mount together as a bank of two. They connect that's part of the speed of installation as we reduce a lot of extra fittings. And it is about 12 inches shorter than our SV1 and SV2 series collectors. And of course lighter as well and easier to handle. So let's take a look at that solar collector connection set, and it starts with getting the collector up, the mounting frames down. You can see here the aluminum rails on that roof mounting hardware. You get the collector up on the roof and mounted onto that frame, and then there's this little clip here which connects to the side frame of the collector and holds the collector in place. And then you take this insert T-fitting, which is part of the hydraulic piping, and you slip it into one side of that collector, and there's an O-ring seal inside of that fitting there. You get the second collector up on the roof, and then you push these two together, tighten up the middle connector on the pipe there, and it's done. Everything's hydraulically sealed without using any tools on those fittings. The only thing you have to use tools on is the mounting the collectors to the frame, because once you tighten those clips down on both sides of the collectors, it holds that collector 100% in place, and that T-fitting in the middle here can actually, it's got a little bit of room to flex and move and expand without any leakage or coming apart. So it's a great system for reliability and speed of installation. And that T-fitting comes as a set with two pieces. There's one that has a sensor well built into it and one that does not. And they come in different lengths, 31 inches, 105 inches. This is an immersion sensor well for the control system. So there's an immersion sensor that goes in there, which you clamp down and hold in place. And as you see on this drawing here, you can see that's where the sensor well goes up on the top of the collector. So your sensor slips into that well, and then the bottom connector does not have that. And so typically we're going to run the pipes up and down through the roof, but you can come off the side as well. That's the typical installation we're showing there, with your return pipe going in the bottom, your supply pipe coming on the top with that built-in sensor well. Connecting the pumping station in the basement up with the collectors on the roof, you're going to need some sort of supply and return piping. So we show two different options here. The first and probably the preferred choice is the Viessmann pre-insulated stainless steel piping set. Comes in 20, 40, and 50-foot lengths. This allows you to have real quick connect fittings and compression fittings to that whole system. And of course, it has insulation and sensor wire built into it. So it's if you go with the second option, which is to pipe it up yourself with copper, you're going to have to insulate it and run the wire separately with that. So there may be a little more, the beauty of the stainless steel is probably labor saving in that it's insulated, the insulation's jacketed, the sensor wire is built in, and it's all quick connect fittings. So you probably have a little higher cost on that option one, but if you take into account your labor, I don't think so. I think you're probably better off with the stainless steel. But again, it's up to you. You can do it either way, because the collector piping is not supplied as part of the package. You can choose which option works best for you. And then as far as the connectors onto the pumping station go, you can see here the two options. With the stainless steel piping, it's a quick connect fitting with O-rings, which directly connects right to the top of the pumping station. If you use option 2, which is the copper, there's a special metric conversion a copper pipe, which we supply with the package, which slips into that and it's compression fitting. And then from there, you just convert to regular, NPT copper. So we talked about earlier about a complete no solder solution. And this is one of the great things you can do with the system, with those quick connect fittings at the collector. You can connect that flexible piping together right to the Viessmann piping system with compression fittings, and then you put those flexible connectors right into the pumping station. You hook up your flexible connector to the expansion tank, and voila, you've got a complete no solder solar loop. All the hydraulic connections in that glycol loop are all compression fittings, and very reliable compression fittings as well. So that's an option that I think should really speed up your installation on sites and allow you to really reduce the labor and time you spend on a job. Now I just want to show you a few piping schematics. There's of course all kinds of different combinations and permeations we can look at, but I just wanted to show you a couple. And one, first and foremost here is this device we're showing here on all of our drawings is a field supplied thermostatic tempering valve, which has to be installed on any solar loop. So just make sure that you do install one of those on the potable water downstream from the solar tank. So this is the traditional 2-coil system with a boiler backup and a space heating system. So this is an example. You've got a gas-fired boiler. It's heating, radiant floor heating, and maybe a high temperature circuit as well. We show a low loss header in there. And then also we have a domestic water circuit. So if the solar tank needs to be boosted in temperature, the boiler will kick in and do that. Now another possibility with that 2-coil tank is to use that top coil. Instead of being used to put heat in, we're using it to take heat out. So here we're going to drive heat out of the solar tank and into the space heating circuit. And so this would allow us in the spring and the fall possibly to boost some energy into that solar loop, into that boiler loop where it's available to heat the radiant floor or other. Now, you're not going to get a huge boost because it's only 2 collectors, but if no one's there using water and there's lots of solar radiation available, this allows you to put some of that into the space heating circuit. In this case here, the domestic water is no longer being reheated at the top of the coil here. The domestic water is being heated by some other device. So we show here a traditional indirect water heating providing the domestic water for the house. So this is a straight preheat system. Preheated water comes out of there and gets boosted if needed, by that indirect tank. Another variation of that same theme is with our VITODENS 222F. This is basically a boiler and a water heater built into one. The 222F has a 26-gallon storage tank in there. So again, we're showing a double coil tank, space heating supplement boosting into the space heating load, and then the hot water comes out of the solar tank and into the 222F where that internal water heater will boost it up as required. A great combination because those two systems combined have a lot of pre-assembled components, because you've got boiler, expansion tank, domestic water system, two pumps all built into one package there with the 222F. And then you've got the solar system pumping station all built into one package here. So it's just really a matter of connecting them all together. And you've got a real nice, sweet solar domestic water space heating supplement system that provides space heating, domestic water heating supplemented by solar. So again, lots of different packages we can go here. So those are just a few applications. Again, I could show you lots more, but there is not enough time. Now, just to summarize what this package is all about, to me it starts with really highly efficient solar collection with a real great solar fraction to provide your customers with lots of solar energy into their system. It's easy to order and super simple to install. That's a real benefit from a cost standpoint. Reduced number of fittings, again, allows us to reduce the cost and reduce that on-site installation labor. So all those things combined, to me, the biggest benefit is a reduced cost makes solar affordable for your customers. It's simpler to install. It's going to allow you to install instead of $10, $12, $15,000 for a domestic water package system, I believe you can get down easily, in the $7,000 in total installed package range, maybe even less if it's a real simple installation. So really simple, basic package. The list price on the solar package, by the way, is in Canadian dollars is less than $5,000 list price. So for that whole package system. So and then of course that's discounted through our distributors. So lots of great benefits there for this package. But I think, to me, the biggest thing, and this thing we're finding we're getting a lot of traction on, is it's just simpler and easier and less expensive. So solar's tended to be complicated in the past with lots of pieces and parts. This really simplifies it and takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. We have a promotion going on in Canada right now. I know I have some US people that signed up for this webinar, so unfortunately this is Canadian only. But there is a rebate from February to September for any solar pack sold. A contractor can register the system and submit it and get a check from us for a rebate. So this is a snapshot of our online rebate form. So you basically, and then there's some of the terms and conditions, etc. But basically, you just enter your company name, address, etc., and then you enter the serial number off of the storage tank. Bingo, that's it. So it's all online registration. Super simple to get eligibility for that. So we encourage you to sell some solar packs and take advantage of that rebate that's on until the end of September. Hopefully, help you to kickstart the market. So just as a wrap up, VITOSOL Solar Support Services is something that Viessmann takes a lot of pride in as well. We've been in the solar business for a long time. Myself personally, I've been in the solar business for 25 years, and I've been heading up the solar department at Viessmann here for the last 12 years. We've got other people in both Waterloo, Ontario, and Langley, BC, and in Warwick, Rhode Island, who are dedicated solar experts. And we do a lot of things to help you out: project sizing, TSOL simulations, material lists, CAD layouts. You want a special collector spacing calculation or roof layout, project submittals, troubleshooting, training, in-field support. We do all that. So you need some help, let us know. Or if you even have more questions on the solar pack, give us a call. If you want us to help you with a project, we have a solar project checklist. It's a 3-page checklist in either Excel or PDF, and it just gives us all the data that we need on the size of the load, the type of building, the type of collectors you want to use, that you have a swimming pool, space heating, all this kind of stuff. You fill all that in, you send it in to us, and we help you out with the system design and layout and TSOL simulation. We also do, we have a wide variety of sample piping layouts available. In our archive library now, we have literally hundreds of different solar designs that show all kinds of different combinations and permeations of solar, domestic water, space heating, pool heating, heat rejection circuits, multiple boilers, multiple tanks, multiple collector arrays, you name it. We've done it all. So, and then we also show you the piping, but we also show you the wiring. We show you where all the sensors go, and we show you the sample programming configuration for the solar controller. So we show you the wiring, the programming, and the piping. So really can make your life a lot easier. And we encourage you to take advantage of that because, to be honest, we end up fixing up a lot of bad designs and bad installations and poor controls in our program correctly, and end up fixing up someone else's problem. So take advantage of this up front. It's a free service we provide, and it can really help get a system in right the first time. So for more information, you certainly have your local Viessmann sales rep is your first stop a lot of the time. You can access our literature and tech manuals from our website there. And if you go to the pro login section of our Viessmann website, you'll find all kinds of downloads and again, all the manuals for the solar pack and all our solar products, installation, tech data manuals, color brochures, operating and programming manuals are all online. And of course, we offer ongoing training in our Viessmann Academy locations, 3 locations in North America, in Waterloo, Ontario, Langley, BC, and Warwick, Rhode Island. So thank you very much for joining me today. I appreciate everyone taking their time to see us. If anyone has any questions, I see on the list here, how can the heat pipes work when level, no incline? Well, that's a question that came from Jay Zager. Good question, because one of the things that that's unique with the design of these heat pipe tubes is they are designed to operate virtually flat. And that opens up all these opportunities I showed you before about having the collectors laying horizontally. And Basically, we need to have between 0 and 2 degrees is the slope we like to have. You cannot have the condenser bulb of the heat pipe tube lower than the end of the other end of the tube. So you always have to have level or slightly pitched to make that heat pipe work. But it does work. We've proven it, and I've got several jobs now with collectors laying flat in the roof, and they're just kicking ass and taking prisoners. So I think it's a unique feature that really opens up a lot of opportunities for solar. So that's the only question I have on my list here, unless anyone is frantically typing now as we go. So I'll wrap up now and just say that if anyone has any other questions, certainly my email address is on the screen there. Feel free to email me questions and I will respond to you as fast as possible. So again, thank you for joining us today. This is the only one of several webinars that we have scheduled over the next 6 months or so. So you can go online to our Viessmann Academy if you want to attend more of our Viessmann webinars. And of course, we will offer these recorded videos. Will be online starting in September in our web archive section. You'll be able to download and view these at your leisure. So I'll wrap up here by signing off and saying thank you again from Viessmann, and we hope to see you again sometime. Thank you. Goodbye.